It started with a snap of fingers, a golden watch flashed, and a voice cut the air like a knife. "You, over here." Every head at the five-star restaurant turned. Because the snap belonged to Cole Harrington, a billionaire who treated silence like his property. A string quartet played softly near the window, bowing through the ache of a familiar waltz. White tablecloths shone, wine breathed in crystal, and beneath a chandelier shaped like a crown, Cole's table commanded the room. 3 American executives in sharp suits, 2 French partners in midnight blue, and the kind of laughter that forgets other people have feelings. Maya, a waitress in a pressed black dress and sensible shoes, stepped forward with a small notepad and a disciplined smile. Her hair was tied in a low knot. No jewelry, just a thin elastic on her wrist. She had been clocked in since 3. She was light on her feet from years of needing to be. "Good evening, Mr. Harrington," she said softly. "What can I bring for you?" Cole didn't look at her face. His eyes skimmed her like she was furniture. "You can't start," he said, "by not spilling anything. Last time a girl like you carried wine to my table, my suit cost more than she could make in a year." Laughter snapped around the table like static. A junior associate smirked behind a glass of Sonchair. Maya's cheeks held steady, though the corner of her jaw tensed. "Of course," she replied. "Would you like to begin with water and bread, or shall I?" "Bread," Cole scoffed. "We're not here for carbs, sweetheart. We're here to celebrate a deal." He gestured broadly to Monsieur Dupont and Madame Moreau, the French partners, whose company manufactured sustainable textiles that Cole was hungry to buy. They flew across the Atlantic to be dazzled. "Right, Dupont?" Monsieur Dupont smiled with his eyes and slid his reading glasses higher. "We are excited to be here," he said. "But we are also, how do you say, cautious. That's why we brought you to the best room in this city," Cole said, sweeping his hand, including Maya in the sweep like she were part of the decor. "You're in good hands." Madame Moreau's gaze flicked to Maya with polite warmth. "Bonsoir," she offered. Maya's face softened. "Bonsoir, madame," she said, so naturally that the syllables seemed to unfurl and float. Cole missed it. He was busy wagging a finger at one of his own executives. "If the service slows down, I'm walking," he warned, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I don't do waiting." Maya nodded and retreated, the soles of her shoes whispering against the polished floor. In the pantry station, Eli, the floor manager, met her with a look. "He's a heavy tipper," Eli murmured, "when he's happy. When he's not, he makes noise." "I've handled worse," Maya said, shoulders even. "Still," Eli cautioned, "don't engage, smile, move fast. Let it slide, let it slide." The phrase had followed Maya through 3 cities and 2 oceans. She set 6 water glasses on a silver tray, added lemon wedges, and lifted the weight with her left hand, steady as a metronome. Back at the table, Cole was mid-story, describing how he'd closed a previous deal by testing a VP who had once stuttered in a meeting. "I don't hire fragile," he announced. As Maya placed the first glass, he didn't pause. "Careful," he said. "Don't chip the stem. If you break one of these, the bill goes to your paycheck. Maya's fingers didn't tremble. Understood. She circled the table, water shimmering in the crystal. When she reached Madame Moreau, she set a lemon wedge on a cocktail napkin with an unobtrusive flourish. Madame Moreau smiled again, eyes grateful. "Wine list," Cole said suddenly, turning to Maya without the courtesy of please or eye contact. "Bring the Clos St. Luce, 2012. Not a year younger, and make it quick." Maya blinked once. The restaurant's cellar had a famous Clos St. Luce, but the 2012 vintage was rare. She nodded anyway. "I'll check our cellar, sir, and the chef's amuse-bouche," Cole added. "If he's the genius your manager swears, he can amuse us fast, right away." In the cellar, the air was cool, the bottles resting like sleeping animals. Maya traced a finger over labels, lips moving silently through names she knew better than her own heartbeat. She found one Clos St. Luce, 2014, another, 2015. Her eyes caught the 2012, tucked like a secret behind a row of 2016s. She lifted it with reverence. Back at the table, she cradled the bottle in her arm. "The Clos St. Luce 2012, Mr. Harrington," she said, presenting the label. Cole gave it a perfunctory glance. "About time," he muttered. "Open." Maya placed the bottle on a gueridon, clipped the foil neatly, and twisted the corkscrew in smooth, practiced turns. The cork rose with a sigh, the scent of cedar and velvet fruit slipping into the air. "Do you want me to pour a taste for you, sir?" she asked, "or for Monsieur Dupont, as the guest?" Cole smirked. "For me, obviously." He extended his glass. "If I wanted the guest's opinion, I'd buy his company first." Maya poured exactly 1 ounce. Cole swirled it dramatically, then sipped, lips pursing as if he were punishing the wine for existing. "It'll do," he said, and pushed his glass for a full pour. As Maya served the others, Ethan, one of Cole's executives, leaned toward Cole and snickered. "Not low enough. You see the way she gripped the corkscrew? Amateur." Monsieur Dupont's eyebrows danced. "I thought it was elegant," he said mildly. Cole grinned. "Hunting for an audience. You don't hire grace at wage jobs," he replied. "You hire time cards." Maya's spine aligned like a blade. She finished pouring for Madame Moreau and stepped back, hands folding. "Anything else for the moment?" she asked. "Actually, yes," Cole said, eyes sliding to her name tag at last. "Maya, you can help by not hovering. We're negotiating. Real numbers here." Maya's smile remained. "I'll be nearby if you need anything." She turned away, and Cole called after her, this time in French, rolling the consonants like a private joke. "Regardez, elle n'a même pas la grâce d'un servus." Dupont frowned a fraction. Madame Moreau's mouth tightened. One American executive chuckled because the words sounded pretty. And cruelty often does when it wears cologne. At the waiter's station, Maya exhaled, counting to 5 in her head. She could feel the French sentence hovering like a gnat. She didn't swat it. She pinned her order slips with a paper clip and reminded herself of rent, textbooks, and the email she had not answered from a university in Lyon. Not yet. Not until she could afford to go back. Eli brushed past. You okay? Fine, Maya said. Chef says 2 minutes for the amuse-bouche. He glanced toward Cole's table and shook his head. They're whales tonight. Keep breathing. I am, she said. I always do. The amuse-bouches arrived on a tray like tiny edible poems. A spoon of smoked trout with lemon cream. A square of beet tartar with microgreens. A thimble cup of celeriac veloute crowned with thyme. Maya delivered them in a choreography she could perform half asleep, announcing each bite with a softness that didn't intrude, but somehow made every person feel personally attended to. Everyone, except Cole, who reached past her to grab his spoon before she'd finished. Finally, he said, and ate it into bites. Tell your chef to send actual food. We're not rabbits. Madame Moreau's voice was velvet. It is charming, she said to Maya. Merci, vous, Maya replied. Then remembered Ellie's advice and added, in English, I'll let the chef know. The next 40 minutes were a tango of plates and phrases. Maya moved like a shadow that glowed. Cole peacocked and postured, telling a story about shutting down a factory and saving the bottom line, while Monsieur Dupont asked careful questions about labor rights in Cole's new supply chain. Madame Moreau watched all of them the way a surgeon watches a monitor. When the mains were fired, the conversation sharpened. Contracts emerged. Numbers came out of briefcases like weapons. Cole tapped the table. Let's talk real figures, he said. I want majority control. I can double your valuation in 18 months. Monsieur Dupont smiled without warmth. Control is not our only concern, he said. The soul of our company matters. We prefer a partnership. Cole waved a hand. You're in America. We build big or we get out of the way. Sometimes, Madame Moreau said gently, getting out of the way is wisdom. Cole laughed as if wisdom were a rumor. He turned to Ethan. Remind me what happened to that junior analyst who cried in the meeting. Gone, Ethan said. We don't do fragile. Cole's gaze flicked to Maya, who was clearing crumbs quietly with a silver scraper. Hear that, he said to her, as if she were a student in his classroom. In my world, the strong survive. Maya kept scraping, the small crescent of tool catching tiny shards of bread. In most worlds, she said evenly, everyone survives better when people are kind. The table stilled for a beat. Dupont's eyes glimmered. Ethan smirked. Cole leaned back, appraising her like a puzzle he could solve with money. Cute, he said. Bring the next bottle. Same one. And when you pour, try not to tremble. Investors hate shaky hands. Ellie's warning echoed. Don't engage. Maya set the crumb scraper down, nodded, and retreated. In the cellar, she touched the cool neck of a second-class St. Louis, closed her eyes, and recited a sentence from a book she'd copied onto a sticky note at home. Le respect. C'est l'élégance du cœur. Respect is the elegance of the heart. When she returned and presented the bottle, Cole snapped his fingers again, a metronome of entitlement. Before you pour, he said, and motioned to the French partners. We'll take a little language test. My French is rusty. He smiled. The way cats smile at fish. Translate for us, Ethan. Ella State Jolie Mace pause intelligent. Ethan butchered the vowels and looked at Maya for a reaction. She placed the bottle on the gueridon and reached for the decanter. Madame Moreau's face cooled. "Monsieur Harrington," she said, "this is not appropriate." Cole lifted a palm, as if calming a concert he had started. "It's a joke. Americans joke. Don't be so sensitive." Monsieur Dupont didn't laugh. His eyes slid to Maya with an apology he didn't say. Eli, hovering a few paces away, shot Maya a look that said, "Please don't." Maya understood. She tilted the bottle, letting the wine stream into the decanter in a thin, elegant ribbon that caught the light like a red silk thread. She did not flinch. She did not flush. She did not give Cole the public scene he wanted. Cole smirked at Ethan. "See, she doesn't even know we're talking about her." Maya did know. She knew every word. She knew the words Cole had tossed. Earlier, too, the ones that left a bruise you could not photograph. She had collected words for years the way some people collected stamps. She kept them in her, polished them, turned them over in quiet moments when cities weren't allowed. She finished the decant and poured a small taste for Cole. He didn't bother assessing. "Just fill them," he said, bored of his own game. Maya filled the glasses clockwise, ending at Madame Moreau, whose merci carried extra weight. When she straightened, two men in suits swept through the entrance, scanning the room with the impatience of people whose problems were always someone else's. The taller one, Vance, spotted Cole and made a beeline. "Cole," Vance said, clapping the billionaire on the shoulder, "heard you're stealing France tonight." "Borrowing," Cole quipped, permanently. Vance grinned at Maya as if she were part of Cole's table. "We good on service, honey." Eli appeared at Maya's elbow like a shield. "We are, sir," he said to Vance, voice smooth. "If you need anything, I'll take care of it." "Great," Vance replied, already looking past Eli at the French partners. "Bonjour, bonsoir, etc." Madame Moreau's lips thinned. Dupont adjusted his glasses again. Cole basked in the fraternity of men who believed the room had been made for them. The entrees arrived: seared sea bass on a fennel puree, dry-aged ribeye with bone marrow butter, wild mushroom ragout. The smell of rosemary braided through the music. Maya served quietly, announcing each dish in clear, calm English. Cole stabbed his steak and talked dollars between chews. "Ethan, tell them about the warehouse we got for half price after we negotiated, after we squeezed," Ethan corrected, and they both laughed. Dupont's voice floated like a boundary. "In our company," he said, "we say the person matters as much as the product." Cole rolled his eyes. "That's charming." "In mine, we say sentimentality is expensive." Maya cleared a finished plate and felt the tension thicken like gravy. She saw the French partners exchanging a glance that could have been resignation, could have been strategy. She saw the junior associate's hands flick across a calculator app under the tablecloth. She saw Eli hovering at the edge of the room, counting steps with his eyes, reading storms. When Cole waved again, Maya stepped closer. "Dessert menus," he ordered, "and get the chef out here. If he's going to garnish everything with microgreens, he should own it." Maya nodded. I'll ask if he's available. Ask, Cole repeated, savoring the power of the word dot as she turned. He switched back to French. Theatre loud. Te voir. Elle n'y comprend rien. Annie jolie poupée. Rien D plus. See? She understands nothing. A pretty doll. Nothing more. Maya paused for the length of a heartbeat. She placed the dessert menus, one by one, as if she had not heard. But her ears were burning. Not with embarrassment she had worked past that long ago, but with a heat that felt like intention. Back at the station, Ellie's eyebrows climbed. He's trying to get a rise. He can't, Maya said. Not from me. You sure? Eli asked. He's got that look. I'm sure, she said, and tucked a stray hair behind her ear. I'm here to work. Chef can come. For 30 seconds, Eli said. He's plating the sofals, but he'll do a drive-by. Thank you. When Maya returned with dessert menus, Cole and Vance were arguing about a soccer club as if there were nothing else in the world to argue about. DuPont and Moreau were quiet. They looked like people standing on the edge of a question. Chef will be out in a moment, Maya said. Wonderful, Cole replied. Maybe he can teach you how to carry a tray without breathing on it. Vance laughed, delighted at the cruelty. Savage, he said. Maya said nothing. She could have said that she'd carried heavier trays across narrower hallways. While an aunt in Marseille coughed in the next room and rent was due into currencies, she could have said that she had translated Proust in a college library at 2 a.m. before the scholarship vanished like a mirage. She could have said 1,000 things. But the restaurant was not a confessional, and Cole had not earned her story. Chef Alvaro arrived, tall hat like a flag of truce. Bonsoir, he said to the table, eyes landing on the French partners with warmth that wasn't staged. I hope the evening treats you well. Food's good, Cole said, if you're into tiny art projects. I like a steak that reminds me I'm alive. Alvaro's smile didn't wobble. Then I am pleased you are very alive, sir. He turned to DuPont and Moreau. If there is anything you wish for dessert, say the word. My kitchen is at your command. Merci. Chef, Madame Moreau said, and then to Cole. You see, kindness costs nothing. Cole's grin sharpened. Depends on your balance sheet. When Alvaro left, Cole flicked his wrist. All right, he said to his team, English is boring. If our guests want romance, let's give them French. He beamed at the partners and switched to a clumsy version of their language, chewing vowels like gum. News, Valens, Acheta, Voter, Company. He stalled. How do you say fair? Fair price? Pre-justy? He smirked. Ovic contrail total. With total control. DuPont's expression chilled. Madame Moreau folded her hands. Cole looked pleased with himself. Like a tourist who'd ordered coffee without starting a fire. Close enough, Ethan murmured. Maya stood at the rim of the chandelier's gold glow, a small notebook pressed to her apron, listening to the words as they fell heavy and wrong. The French partners were too polite to correct him bluntly. She watched their dignity lean against the weight of Cole's swagger. She glanced down at the dessert menu in her hand. On the cover, the pastry chef had written a special in chalk, Gâteau au chocolate, served with cream anglaise. The handwriting was neat, careful, respectful. Maya felt a flicker of defiance quiet. Steady flame. Cole noticed her lingering and snapped. Menu down, sweetheart, stand by. We may need a translator who's not afraid of syllables. He laughed at his own line. Maya placed the menu. She caught Madame Moreau's eyes and saw there the strangest thing. Permission. As if the older woman were telling her without words, you choose when. The soulfuls arrived, risen like small miracles. Coffee steamed. The quartet shifted to Debussy. Outside the window, the city draped itself in late evening blue. Cole lifted his spoon, tapped the shell of dessert, and turned to Ethan. Watch this, he murmured, and then, to the table in French, he said to smoothly, "Le servus n'est pas ici pour penser. Elle est ici pour. The waitress isn't here to think. She is here to." Maya set down the coffee pot with a precision that made no sound at all. Her face was serene. Her hands were steady. In the humming quiet that followed Cole's unfinished sentence, she looked at the label on the Classe St. Luce as though reading a poem she loved, and her lips moved just barely on a phrase that would have sounded, to anyone standing close enough, perfectly native. No one at the table heard it. Not yet. But Madame Moreau saw the shape of the words, and a smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Private as a secret. Eli, watching from the station, blew out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Maya took one step back into the chandelier's light. The camera of the mind could have framed her like this, alone yet unafraid. The quiet access of a crowded room. The world would expect her to swallow the insult again and again. But the world didn't know what she knew, or the languages she carried, or the lines she had crossed to stand this still. She folded her hands and waited polite, poised, unreadable as at the table. A billionaire mistook silence for surrender, and a partnership edged closer to breaking. And somewhere between the hum of the quartet and the steam of coffee, a decision settled in her bones. Like a bell, there would be a moment, and when it arrived, she would not miss. He thought she couldn't hear. He thought she wouldn't dare. He thought the room belonged to him. The chandelier hummed. The quartet slid from Debussy into something warmer, and coffee threaded the air with nut-brown steam. Cole's table glowed. Like a stage, the French partners had set their dessert spoons down, untouched. Numbers waited in leather folders. Ink waited to become a decision. Eli checked the floor plan. Lips tight, even from the station. He could feel the voltage at table 1. Maya returned with a tray of demi-tasses, each cup crowned by a feather of creamer. She moved as if the room had taught her a secret rhythm, one that didn't belong to men who snapped. "Coffee for you, sir," she said, placing a cup by Cole's right hand. Handle turned to the perfect angle. He lifted it without thanks. Finally, something done right. His gaze slid to Dupont and Moreau. Where were we? Yes, control. Monsieur Dupont laced his fingers. And ethics, he said. Your last acquisition laid off 200 workers in under 3 months. That's a narrative problem, Cole replied. The story you tell the press. We improved efficiency, We are not the press. DuPont's tone didn't rise, but it carried ballast. We are partners who built something to last. Madame Moreau's voice was almost gentle. We have a clause in our draft guarantee. Dimension de employees. We keep a protection for our people. Cole leaned back, as if the chair had just become a throne. You're in luck. I paid attention in high school French. That's a guarantee of maintaining employment of returns. We'll maintain returns. DuPont's eyes cooled. That is not what it means. Ethan touched his phone as if it might volunteer a miracle. We can bring in a translator tomorrow, he offered. Cole waved him off. No, we're not paying someone to slow us down. He switched to his movie trailer French. Pas besoin, je comprends tout. No need. I understand everything. At the edge of the light, Maya refilled Moreau's water. She didn't look at Cole, but the line of her spine sharpened. She knew the clause. She'd copied that exact phrase into a notebook the year she studied comparative labor law before the scholarship evaporated, before the plane back from Lyon, perhaps. Madame Moreau said with silk patience, "We continue in English." "No," Cole said, pleased by the chance to display his accent. "French is romantic. Let's make it romantic." He turned to DuPont, eager, prowling. "Droit de premier refuse," he announced. "Right of first refusal. We have it. Clause. De earn out. We keep it small. Contrail total. We already said." DuPont removed his glasses and cleaned them, taking time, buying it. "Your pronunciation is adventurous," he said. "Your meaning, more so." Cole laughed, and Val, still loitering like an impatient subplot, laughed with him. "Come on," Val said. "We're all friends. Sign the thing and let us toast." Maya placed the sugar caddy. Her fingertips brushed porcelain, and in that small touch lived a decade of practice. Be exact, be invisible, be air that happens to carry what people want. But the phrase guarantee dimension d'employees pulsed against her ribs like a drum. Maintain jobs, not returns, not optics. People. Eli caught her eye. Don't. She let the warning settle, then turned away. In the back, Alvaro slid Sofals onto a pass, breath steady. "How bad?" "Measured," Eli murmured. "That kind of measured, that's one step." From an earthquake, Alvaro lifted a brow. "And Maya, steady as a surgeon." "Good." Alvaro touched the plate rim with a towel, wiping a tiny fog of powdered sugar. "She's too good for rooms like this. Rooms like this are lucky to have her," Eli said. They watched her cross the dining room again, a dark line of grace. At table one, Cole had spread papers between coffee cups like a conjurer laying out cards. "Let's accelerate," he said, flipping a page in the French draft, lips moving over words he didn't own. "Here indemnit forfaitaire. We turn that into a nominal fee. That," DuPont replied softly, "is a liquidated damages clause, not nominal." Cole didn't hear the sandpaper in the softness. He pointed his pen at a paragraph heavy with legal nouns. "And this obligations non-delocalization. No delocalization. Cute. We don't do cute. We do scale." Madame Moreau's jewelry whispered as she folded her hands. "We wrote it because we care where our workers sleep at night." They can sleep where the cost of sleeping is lowest, Cole said. That's how you grow. DuPont recapped his fountain pen with the kind of care people reserve for heirlooms or fragile truth. Then perhaps, Mr. Harrington, we are not suited. That should have landed like a door closing. But Cole heard only a hinge he could put pressure on. He smiled with the generosity of a man who mistakes conquest for charity. Nonsense. We're perfect together. We just need lubrication. Maya, she paused. Yes, sir, more wine, he said, and find out whether the chef can write. Congratulations in French on a plate without embarrassing himself. We're going to celebrate. Maya stared at him for a fraction past polite. As you wish. She brought the second decanter to his elbow and poured with a hand that didn't spill. The wine glowed like a small fire in each bowl of glass. She wished language could be decanted, that the sediment of arrogance could settle to the bottom, that she could pour only what was clear. Cole lifted his glass. To the future, he declared. DuPont didn't touch his. To clarity, he countered. Clarity is overrated, Vance said. Deals need momentum. Good deals need conscience. Madame Moreau said. Cole's smile thinned. Here's my conscience. I keep companies alive. I make them bigger. Your workers will thank me. They will thank you, DuPont said gently, if they are still your workers. Silence cooled the table for a heartbeat. The quartet found the bridge of the waltz and held it like a promise. Somewhere distant, a phone vibrated and was quickly silenced. Cole broke the pause with a flourish, snapping the French draft toward Ethan. Fine. We compromise. We maintain a percentage of jobs. But I want pre-plancher removed. Maya's breath hitched barely. Pre-plancher, the floor price, the safety mat that kept the sale from becoming a fire. Remove it. And the French company would be naked in a storm. Eli saw the hitch. He shook his head. Maya steadied herself, repeating the sticky note sentence in her mind. Le respect, c'est l'elegance Duca. We cannot remove pre-plancher, DuPont said, firmer now. It protects us from a predatory repricing. Predatory? Cole laughed, delighted. That's dramatic. We're friends, remember? He leaned in, lowered his voice, and switched to French with a tongue designed for deals, not declensions. Écoutez, je suis votre sauveur, sans moi, vous tombez. Listen, I am your savior. Without me, you fall. Madame Moreau's knuckles whitened around her spoon. Monsieur Harrington, she said, in English, so there could be no pretense of misunderstanding. We came because we believed you respected our work. We are discovering we were mistaken. Ethan shot a look at Cole. Pull back. Vance shot a look that said, push harder. Cole chose the second look. He almost always did. Respect, he said, smiling without teeth, is expensive. But we can buy it. How about this keep guaranteed dimension employees for 12 months? After that, we decide where the bodies go. He paused, theatrically. Figure of speech. It wasn't. Everyone at the table knew it wasn't. Maya cleared a plate that didn't need clearing. Her body needed to move or it would say something her job could not afford. At the station, she set the plate down and forced her breath to say the word. Eli murmured. I'll swap you out. Let Marco take them. I'm fine. Fine is a word with holes, Eli said. You're bleeding through. She shook her head. If I leave now, it proves him right. That you're what? Fragile. Eli smiled a little. Fragile things don't carry rooms on their backs. She let the kindness land. It didn't change the physics of the scene, but it gave her a stronger spine to stand with when she returned. A new draft had appeared. Ethan had conjured an English version of the French clause, but the translation app on his phone had turned indemnit forfaitaire into flat tip, and obligations de non-delocalization into obligation of non-evacuation, which sounded like a building code. Ethan knew it read wrong. He slid the phone under his thigh and prayed no one had seen the screen. DuPont had. He was too polite to smirk. Instead, he said, we could step aside, of course, and speak with our counsel in the morning. Cole snapped his fingers. Not for Maya this time, but for fate. No, he said. Tonight, we're men of action. Madame Moreau's gaze sharpened. And what of the waitress? She asked quietly. Eyes on Maya. Is she also a woman of action? Or is she, how did you say, not here to think? Cole's smile flashed caught, then regrouped. Madam, I never. You did, she said. No rancor, only a statement of fact. Like gravity. Maya stood a step back, neutral. A planet outside their orbit. She wasn't neutral inside. Inside. An argument built itself. Not my place versus. Not a crime to tell the truth. Job versus. What jobs are for? She had lost a scholarship. She had lost a city. She had promised herself she wouldn't lose her compass. Enough to tours, Cole declared. Here, he drew a thick pen from his jacket pocket the way a knight draws a sword. We'll sign a memorandum of understanding. Headline terms. Majority control to Harrington Global. Earn-out cap. Removal of pre-plunger. 12-month job guarantee. French PR fluff to keep the villagers calm. Monsieur Dupont gathered the papers with hands that did not shake. You propose we sign something neither of us respects. I respect it, Cole said. Because I wrote it. That is precisely why, Dupont replied. We do not. The junior associate coughed out a nervous laugh and then pretended he hadn't. Vance checked his watch as if the time might sympathize. Evan's eyes begged for land. Cole stood. The chair legs scraped. His shadow cut the table in half. You know what your problem is? He asked in English because the wound needed no translation. You still think this is a fairy tale where nice people win. That's not business. Madame Moreau stood to. Slow as a tide. Business, she said, is the story we tell with what we take and what we give. Tonight you have shown us your story. It is not one we wish to join. Dupont rose. Eli stiffened. Across the room he could smell a scene forming, and scenes broke plates. Cole stared them down, then pivoted, predator smooth, toward Maya. You, he said, because when men like him lose the sky, they look for a smaller thing they can still eclipse. Translate this to your friends so there is no confusion. Sign maintenance, Upates. Maya inhaled sharp. Quiet. Sign now, or leave. The words were accurate enough. The violence under them needed no accent to be precise. She stayed still. She was a keel. She would not capsize in his weather. She glanced just once at Madame Moreau. In the older woman's eyes, courage. But choose your moment. Maya set a fresh napkin by Cole's elbow, a tiny ritual of civility, and let the seconds pass. She knew something about seconds. She had counted them through night shifts, through migraines, through subway delays with borrowed textbooks on her knees. Seconds were not small. They were doors. Monsieur Dupont began to gather his things. "We will consult counsel," he told Ethan, who looked relieved just to be addressed. "Perhaps we reconvene with a translator." Cole's laugh came out as a bark. "There's a translator right there," he said, pointing at Maya, which made nearby tables tilt their heads. "If she ever learns which side carries the tray." Eli moved toward them, manager smile ready, but Maya gave a tiny shake of her head. "I've got this." She placed her hands lightly on the back of an empty chair. Her voice, when it came, was linen soft but woven tight. "Would you like me to call a professional interpreter, sir?" she asked. "No," Cole said, smug returning. "I want you to show them out." The quartet hit a luminous high note and held it the way you hold your breath before a dive. Outside, a taxi honked and was swallowed by the city. Inside, Madame Moreau picked up her clutch. Dupont tucked his pen away like a precious relic. Their disappointment wasn't loud. It was the kind that changes weather. Maya thought of a sentence her professor had once said as snow fell beyond a lion window. "Language is a bridge, and sometimes it is the only one people will cross." She watched Dupont prepare to step off this bridge. She watched Cole prepare to blow it up so he could build a toll road on the ashes. She took a step forward. "Monsieur Dupont," she said in English, careful, deferential, neutral still neutral. "Would you like me to call your car, Monsieur?" he said softly. "That would be kind." Cole rolled his eyes. "We're not done," he snapped. "Sit, sign, and celebrate." "Nous n'y signerons pas soir," Dupont answered, switching back to French with the tenderness of someone returning to a first language. "We will not sign tonight." Cole's temper cracked. "Fine," he said, English again, louder than the room deserved. He turned to Vance. "You see what I deal with? People who don't understand power." He reached for the wine. The stem clinked against the decanter. In the shallow silence that followed, Maya felt the moment arrive, the one she had promised herself she would catch, if she waited. The partners would walk out, and an ugly rumor about this restaurant about her might travel in their wake. Because stories adhere to the nearest surface. If she spoke, she would cross a line. There would be consequences. Jobs have been lost over smaller acts of spine. Ellie's breath snagged. Alvaro watched from the pass, a wooden spoon frozen in his hand. Maya looked at the French draft that lay, half open beside Cole's coffee, a wing waiting for wind. She could see the clause as clearly as if she had typed it. Pre-plancher floor price non-negotiable. Guarantee dimension de employs jobs safeguarded for the life of the earnout. Not 12 months. Obligations de non-delocalization, no offshoring. Indemnit forfaitaire liquidated damages sufficient to sting a billionaire. Cole lifted his pen again, Reckless, last chance, he said. A boy about to dare a match into gasoline. Maya set her tray on the gerudon with care. The room heard metal touch wood and turned. A flock sensing a wind shift. She straightened, not tall, not loud, just exact. "Mr. Harrington," she said. And the way she said it made even Vance blink. "May I speak for 15 seconds? No," he said automatically. "Yes," Madame Moreau said at the same time. Equally automatic. The simultaneity hung there like a coin in the air, deciding which face to show. Maya didn't wait for it to land. She turned to DuPont and Moreau, and when she opened her mouth, her English fell away like a coat shrugged off at the door. Her French clear, precise, unhurried crossed the table like a hand extended over water. "Monsieur, Madame, si vous partez sur y cause d'un malentendu, ce ne sera pas parce que la langue vous trahisse. Je vous promets, sir, Madame, if you leave tonight because of a misunderstanding, it will not be because the language betrayed you. I promise." Every face at the table stopped pretending. The quartet missed a note and found it again. Eli closed his eyes and then opened them, half a prayer answered. Alvaro grinned into his spoon like a man hearing rain after a long dry season. Cole froze the kind of freeze after which something breaks. Maya continued, still soft, still woven tight, still giving everyone an exit. Le terme garantie mentioned d'emplois signify exactement cela garantie d'emplois. Pendant toute la période d'earnout, pas deux mois, et pré-plancher a state non-negotiable dans votre projet. L'on livre changerait l'économie morale de l'accord. The term guarantee D mentioned d'emplois means exactly that, the safeguarding of jobs for the entire earnout period, not 12 months, and pre-plancher is non-negotiable in your draft. Removing it would change the moral economics of the deal. DuPont's eyes brightened as if someone had opened a window. Madame Moreau's hand touched her heart. For a second, a very French thank you. Maya glanced at Cole, giving him a path back to dignity. Si j'ai mal compris, corrigez-moi, s'il vous plaît. If I have misunderstood, please correct me. Cole's mouth opened and closed, a fish transplanted to air. Ethan whispered, half awe, half relief. "Holy," Vance swore under his breath. Maya stepped back, palms open, as if to show she held no weapon but truth. The room had shifted. The bridge stood. It needed someone to choose to cross. DuPont looked at Moreau. Moreau looked at DuPont. Between them, 30 years of partnership performed a quick, wordless calculus. DuPont nodded. He turned to Maya in French. "Mademoiselle, merci, sans vous. Nous serions partis avec un mauvais goût. Et n'aurait pas été la faute de la cuisine." "Thank you. Without you, we would have left with a bad taste, and it would not have been the kitchen's fault." Laughter fluttered around the edges of the table relief's first shy cousin. Cole found his voice. "Roughened, cute trick," he said, English pure again. "You picked up a few phrases on YouTube." Maya met his eyes, not defiant, not bowed, simply present. "I studied in Lyon," she said, gently, in English now for the room. "Before I came back to help family." The line landed without self-pity, without brag, Just a fact joined to another fact. We never know who people are until we stop rehearsing our lines and listen. Cole's pen hovered, suddenly heavy. Pride tugged one way. Money tugged another. Image tugged both. He was a man who hated to be corrected, and a man who hated to lose. Which hate would win? Eli took a step, ready to say something managerial, but the moment had grown beyond management. It belonged to the four people at the table and to the waitress, who had just altered the axis of the evening with 15 seconds of courage. DuPont slid the French draft back to the center. Madame Moreau rested her fingertips on the margin like someone touching a map. "We can continue," she said, "if we speak accurately." Maya inclined her head, already easing backward, ready to disappear the way good bridges do once people cross. "I'll bring fresh coffee," she murmured. Cole tapped the pen once, twice, as if sound could bully the air back into his shape. It didn't. He looked at the draft, the clauses he had misnamed, the harm he had almost signed. He looked at the partners, the dignity he could not purchase. He looked at Maya, the person he had tried to shrink to the size of a napkin. "Fine," he said, the word chipped. "We speak accurately. 'Tis been," DuPont replied. Maya turned toward the station, heart drumming against her apron. The adrenaline rhymed with a sober thought. "You did it. Now own it." Behind her, Cole added, almost lightly, almost as if the weight hadn't shifted. "But since our waitress has opinions, perhaps she should stay to take notes." Vance snorted. Ethan shot him a glare. Madame Moreau's mouth curved. She heard the petty and refused to inhale it. Maya didn't answer. She reached the station, set the empty tray down, and closed her eyes for one heartbeat. Eli touched her shoulder. "You okay?" She exhaled a laugh that trembled once, and then decided not to. "Ask me in an hour. You just saved the room," he said. She shook her head. "I saved the words. Same thing tonight." Across the dining room, the quartet shifted again, settling into a piece with bright edges. In the kitchen, Alvaro called, "Two fresh coffees. And what do we write on the plate?" Eli looked at Maya. She thought of Cole's order, congratulations, and the way he had meant it to crown conquest. She thought of the bridge still standing. She thought of what dessert could say that dessert had any right to say. "Right respect," she said softly, in French. Alvaro grinned. "Respect. Simple enough." He slid into motion. Maya lifted a new tray, set to small cups on it, then paused with her hand on the handle. She caught her reflection in the chrome of the coffee machine. Not a hero, not a martyr, just a woman who had refused to lie to language. It would have to be enough. When she returned to table one, the air felt different, the way it feels after rain, molecules rearranged. DuPont and Moreau sat with shoulders less armored. Effen's phone lay face down. Vance lingered farther away, as if the blast radius had expanded and found him. Cole did not look at her. That was new. He looked at the paper, at the neat rows of French that would no longer bend for him. He was calculating again. She could see it, the arithmetic behind his eyes. Ego minus risk plus optics times audience. She placed the coffees and stepped back. No one spoke for a moment. The chandelier hummed. outside. The city's neon wrote its own clauses across wet pavement. Maya let the pause grow, then turned to leave, to give them privacy to choose who they wanted to be. "Wait," Cole said. She stopped. He didn't look at her. "If we're doing this accurately," he said, forcing the word through. "Teeth not used to it. I'll need a translator tomorrow. Someone who's not on a shift." DuPont's smile reached his eyes for the first time all night. "We already have one," he said. Maya could have refused. She could have said she had another job, which was true, or that she had limits, which was also true. Instead, she said the sentence that would tilt the next hour, and the next day, and the next part of her life. "I can be available," she replied, "if the restaurant approves." Eli, from behind her, said, "The restaurant approves." Cole's jaw worked. Pride still paced behind his face. But money and optics had teamed up, and he rarely beat that coalition. "Fine," he said. "Tomorrow at 10. Madame Moreau lifted her cup. "To clarity," she said again. And this time the toast was not a duel. Maya nodded and turned to go, and the camera of the mind would have followed her for a few steps, the narrow ribbon of her path among tables, the small gravity she carried before cutting back to the contract that had almost become a wound, and now might heal into something else. She reached the station. Eli squeezed her hand once, quick, like passing a match that would light a lantern. In the kitchen, a plate slid onto the pass, chocolate cake warm and glossy, white porcelain scripted in dark cocoa. "Respect." Maya smiled, just a little, then lifted the plate and carried it toward the table where the story no. The deal waited at the edge of its better self. The chocolate cake arrived like a small verdict across the porcelain in dark cocoa script. A single word curved neat, an undeniable colon respect. Madame Moreau smiled with her eyes. Monsieur Dupont's mouth softened, the way snow softens noise. Even Ethan let out a breath he'd been hoarding. Vance looked away, as if the plate were accusing him personally. Maya set it down between the contracts and coffee cups, then stepped back into the edge of the chandelier's light. She didn't own the room. She simply stood as if she belonged in it, because you do not need to own a room to belong. Cole stared at the plate. For a beat the letters didn't compute. He was a man fluent in numbers that start with commas, not nouns that start with conscience. His jaw worked once, then his chin lifted, the old reflex reaching for control. "Fine," he said, voice roughened by an unfamiliar thing, maybe humility, maybe its first cousin. "We continue." Accurately, Dupont inclined his head. "Merci, truce," Ethan murmured, and nudged the French draft back to the center. Maya eased a half step closer. "Would you like me to stand by?" she asked. "Sit," Cole said, then caught himself. "Please stay close, if we need translation." "We will," Madame Moreau said, and the warmth in her voice made the verb sound like a vote. Maya nodded and moved to a quiet angle at the table's edge. She took no seat. Bridges do not sit. When the words needed crossing, she carried them clean, careful, precise. Guaranteed dimension d'employs became what it meant, not what pride wanted. Pre-plancher stayed anchored to the floor. Obligations delocalization stopped being an obstacle and started being a promise. The air lightened as meanings snapped into place like buttons finally aligned with the right holes. Cole listened, not well, at first. His pen tapped in a small private tantrum. He corrected himself twice, and then stopped correcting and started asking. "So you're saying," he said, pointing at the clause about jobs, during the earnout, "layoffs are off the table." "Unless mutually agreed," DuPont replied, "with cause, with proof, with dignity." "Dignity," Cole repeated, as if tasting a spice the chef hadn't used on him before. "And after the earnout?" he asked. "After?" Madame Moreau said, "We expect a board that includes worker representatives, if cuts ever come. They will be the last resort and supported by a training fund." Ethan perked up. "Training is positive press," he said under his breath. Cole shot him a look, then turned to Maya. "How would you translate training fund in a way that doesn't sound like fluff?" "Fonds de formation," Maya said. "It sounds exactly like what it should be." Cole nodded, almost grateful. "And we fund it at—" Madame Moreau didn't blink. "2% of operating profits for 3 years." "2?" Vance squawked, then quieted when DuPont and Moreau didn't even grunt him a glance. Cole ran a quick mental arithmetic. 2% today, loyalty tomorrow, headlines this quarter, resilience the next. 1.5, he countered. "We add a community program, scholarships, PR with teeth, too," DuPont said again, pleasantly immovable. "We add a line that those scholarships be targeted to the communities of your factories." Teeth and roots, a laugh slipped out of Alvaro at the pass, low and proud. Eli covered it with a cough and a grin. Cole considered. He could bully a decimal. He couldn't bully a value. "2," he said at last. "If I get a throughput guarantee in shipping, that," DuPont said, "is negotiable." "Good," Cole said, and some of the steel in his voice softened. "Into craft, they moved like that for 40 minutes, Sask." Answer. Amenderleaf Ray learning the steps to a dance it had forgotten. Whenever a word threatened to tilt the table, Maya steadied it. When the French partners needed nuance, she offered it like a napkin. When the American side needed face, she gave them truth with a tone that didn't bruise. Only once did the old Cole flare when he tried to remove a small penalty clause, and Moreau declined. "It's symbolic," he argued. "Exactly," she said gently. "Symbols teach behavior." He glanced at the cake again. Respect looked back. At last, DuPont closed his pen. "We have gone as far as is wise tonight," he said. "Tomorrow, we meet at 10 with council to finalize." "Here," Cole said automatically, then caught himself. "At my office." "No, where you prefer." "Our firm," Moreau said, "for neutrality." Cole nodded. "Neutrality," he echoed, getting used to liking words he once ignored. He pushed his chair back. "Maya, thank you." The syllables came out shaped almost like an apology. He stood there, heavy watch flashing the chandelier's light. Wealthy in all the ways that by nothing a person will be remembered for. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I shouldn't have earlier." He started the sentence, looked for a verb and chose a simple one. "I'm sorry." Eli blinked. Alvaro leaned against the stainless steel like he might need it. Ethan stared into his coffee to give his boss privacy. Vance checked the exit signs as if one of them might lead to a world with fewer consequences. Maya held Cole's gaze. "Apology accepted," she said, in English and in tone. "Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's deciding the future is stronger." Then the past. DuPont extended his hand to Cole, then to Maya. "Until tomorrow," he said. "And mademoiselle, if your schedule allows, we would be honored for you to join as interpreter." "It would be my honor," Maya replied. They left. To the hush of a room that knows it has witnessed something unrepeatable. The quartet shifted to a gentle coda. Conversations resumed, but softer, as if volume had learned a lesson from meaning. Eli called last orders. Alvaro plated midnight snacks for a dishwasher's break. The staff moved in that end-of-service rhythm, where relief masquerades as fatigue. In the pantry, Maya rolled a spoon between her palms like a coin, heat fading from adrenaline to afterglow. Eli set to cups of staff tea on the counter. "You just walked a tightrope between a hurricane and a cliff," he said, sliding a cup toward her. "And you did it in heels." She smiled. "They're sensible shoes. Tonight," he said. "They were wings." She took a sip. The warmth unknotted something low in her chest. "Do you think I'll be fired in the morning?" Eli made a face like a man reading a ridiculous rumor. "By who?" "The guy who just asked you to save his." "Deal." "The chef who wrote respect because you asked." "Me? I don't fire bridges." She laughed, an honest sound. Light and a little surprised. "Thank you. Get some sleep," he said. "Tomorrow you're not clocking in. You're clocking up. Is that a thing?" "It is now." He slid an envelope across the counter heavy with cash. "The table's tip." Maya shook her head. "Split it with the team." "You sure?" "Yes," she said. "But if there's a way, put my share toward the emergency fund for kitchen staff." Alvaro said Marco's little girl needs new meds. Ellie's throat worked. Done. They closed the restaurant and the quiet an ending deserves. Maya walked home through streets that smelled like rain and bread. In her tiny studio, she sat on the edge of her bed and read the sticky note taped. To her mirror, "Le respect, c'est l'élégance du cœur." Respect is the elegance of the heart. She slept. Morning held a different kind of light, the kind that makes even concrete look honest. Maya arrived at the law firm 15 minutes early with a notebook and a comb she had ironed twice. The conference room was glass, the table a river of wood. A carafe of water waited beside perfect cubes of ice. DuPont, and Moreau greeted her like an old friend. "Bonjour, Mademoiselle Maya," DuPont said. "You slept. Come on, Caillou," she replied a rock. They laughed. Their counsel arrived. A woman with a tidy bun and eyes that catalogued and cared at the same time. "I hear we owe last night's progress to you," she said. "I owe it to the words," Maya answered. Cole entered with Ethan. The billionaire's aura had adjusted. It still filled a room, but now left oxygen for other people. He shook hands with the partners, nodded at counsel, and looked at Maya not as an object in a service uniform, but as a colleague. "We'll keep this clean," he said. "We all have lives to get back to. Lives Madame Moreau repeated, approving the plural. They began. Clauses were read aloud in French, then in English. Maya carried nuance across the glass table like a tray that could not spill. That guarantee was a promise, not a press release. That earnout meant patient partnership. That board representation meant voices in the room, not photos on a website. Cole negotiated like a man discovering a tool he'd owned all along. Listening, he wanted technical protections on shipping and raw material volatility. He lost a vanity clause about naming rights and lived. He suggested the training fund include language courses. Maya's eyes flicked up, surprised, then dropped back to the page. And scholarships, Ethan added, finding his footing. For worker families. For workers. DuPont corrected gently. Adults first. Children later. Cole scribbled, then looked up. We'll name it after my mother, he said, and the room turned, expecting spin. What arrived was simple. She waited tables. Nights. Saved me from myself more than once. His mouth twitched. Would have hated last night. Silence. Acknowledged the admission. Grace let it land. They took a short break while counsel cleaned up commas. Cole lingered at the window overlooking the city. He caught Maya's reflection in the glass. I don't like being wrong, he said, not turning. It wasn't a confession. It was a fact finally in service to something other than pride. But I like losing less. Accuracy helps with both, Maya said. He huffed a small laugh. Stay after this closes. I want to make you an offer. She lifted a brow. As a translator, as a human who solves problems, he said. Titles are lazy. Then I'll listen, she replied. The final read-through took 20 minutes, and the kind of attention usually reserved for surgery. At the end, signatures looped across pages. Expensive pens earning their keep. Applause felt wrong. Relief felt right. Cole stood and extended his hand to DuPont. Partners, he said. Partners, DuPont agreed. To beginnings with teeth and roots, Moreau said. And for the first time in 2 days, everyone laughed easily. After handshakes and copies and counsel's tidy thanks, the partners excused themselves for a flight. At the door, Madame Moreau squeezed Maya's hands. Vous avez un avenir magnifique, she said. You have a beautiful future outside the conference room. In a smaller office that looked strangely shy of power, Cole gestured to a chair. Maya remained standing. You were offered enough today to pay rent 10 times over, he said. But I meant it. I want to offer more. I'm listening. Consultant, he said. Language, yes. But more ethics that save deals before they bleed. Help me build the training fund so it's not fluff. Advise me when I'm being an idiot. That last part could be full-time, she said, and the corner of his mouth gave up a grin. I'll pay well. You set boundaries. Finish whatever you want to finish in school. He glanced at her. Lion? Her chin lifted. If I can afford to go back. I have a foundation, he said. We're renaming it this afternoon. We'll cover tuition. If you'll agree to design the first worker language program with us, remote when you're abroad. Come home for intensives. Tuition is a big word. So was respect. He countered. We both survived it. She didn't say yes immediately. Dignity doesn't rush. I'll need to talk to the restaurant. She said, Eli depends on me. I'll talk to Eli, Cole said. I owe him a new fridge anyway. She tilted her head. You do? It's noisy, he admitted, and she laughed. He held out his hand. Consider it. No pressure. Okay, some pressure. A little. That's who I am. She shook his hand. I'll consider. On the sidewalk, sunlight made the morning look expensive and honest at the same time. Maya texted Eli, all good. Back by dinner shift to tell you everything. Eli replied with a picture of the staff chalkboard. Someone had written respect under the special of the day. She ducked into a coffee shop with windows that let you eavesdrop on the weather. She ordered nothing, she just needed a table to set her thoughts down and rearrange them. Her phone buzzed again. A new email. The header made her breath stutter. Universite D. Lion, reintegration, Bourse complementaire. Thumb hovered. She opened it. Dear Ms. Desai, we are pleased to inform you that your request for re-enrollment has been approved, and a private donor, Anonymous, has pledged a supplementary scholarship. She didn't need to be a translator to read between those lines. Anonymous had a gold watch and a learning curve. She closed her eyes and let gratitude be a quiet river. Instead of fireworks, outside, a bus sighed. Inside, the barista wiped a ring of milk from a counter like erasing a small mistake. That evening, she showed up for her shift anyway. Alvaro whooped when he saw her. Eli pretended not to hug her and failed. The staff clustered for 10 seconds of celebration disguised as a logistics huddle. You're a legend, Margot said, eyes bright. My kid's meds Eli told me. Maya squeezed his shoulder. We take care of each other. At 7:30, a courier arrived with a box the size of a cake, but heavier. Inside, a new commercial blender for the pantry, a handwritten card, and an envelope with a donation for the emergency fund. The card held for words in block letters, for the bridge. Colvaro whistled. We keeping the card. We're framing it, Eli said. Near closing, a family wandered in without a reservation, a mother and 2 children, clothes tired at the knees. Eli started to explain that the kitchen was winding down. Maya met the mother's eyes, saw the kind of fatigue that worries about school shoes and bus fare. Sit, Maya said quietly to Eli. We've got soup and good bread. We can make room. They did. Alvaro ladled bowls like a man serving winter its own cure. The kids ate with the ferocity of trust returning. The mother cried once, quietly, and then smiled so wide the night felt wider with it. Maya wrote the check from her translation fee and slid it into Ellie's office safe with a note. Emergency fund first, scholarship second. We can do both. At midnight. When the city simmered instead of boiled, Maya changed out of her uniform and walked home. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Domain, 9 hours before the board meeting coffee. M. Maroche smiled. Yes, she typed. With pleasure. Another buzz. Cole again, this time not anonymous. Figure out what Lion needs. Send me the list. Also tell Alvaro the steak last night was perfect. Even if I pretended it wasn't. Don't tell him I said that. She did not promise. Some truths deserve daylight. At her mirror, She pulled the sticky note free and slid it into her wallet. She added another below the empty space. A new sentence in her own handwriting. Bridges don't choose who crosses. They choose to stand. She lay down in the small room that had carried her through smaller nights. And for once, the ceiling didn't feel like a lid. Sleep found her quickly. In the morning, she would draw up a draft for a language program that could live in factories where English and French and Spanish and Vietnamese brushed shoulders with overtime, where words could be pay raises waiting to happen. Next month, she would sit on a plane to Lyon with a scholarship that wore no logo. Next year, she would stand in a classroom where the window looked onto a street that smelled like bread and rain and beginnings. As she drifted, the restaurant chandelier lit itself in her mind one more time, and she heard again the clear, steady sound of her own voice crossing a table. If you leave because of a misunderstanding, it will not be because the language betrayed you. It hadn't, and neither had she outside. The city kept its own music. Inside, the word on a plate kept working after the crumbs were gone. Respect.